Today, we have one of my dear friends and our senior advisor of sales, Theresa French. Now, Theresa came all the way from Minnesota to be in studio today and talk with me about sales. There are so many nuggets in this conversation, but I want you to listen to several things about questioning, overcoming objections, teaching people how to go out and serve their customers in a way that your company may not be doing today. So tune in. Here's a great conversation with Theresa French. Welcome to Lead, Grow, Live, where our goal is to help you lead your people, grow your company, and live your life. Theresa French, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You hold the record now for the longest trip into the studio.
I am privileged.
So you are from Minnesota.
I am from Minnesota, the land of the boats and the coats and the hot dishes.
That's hilarious. I know why you're here. So tell me what brought you to Louisiana.
You, coming to figure out how to serve businesses better. I'm an expert in sales, been here for 27 years. When I heard the opportunity to come and be with you and serve these businesses, I couldn't pass it up. So we said, we're going to come and have a good conversation today about exactly how we go about doing that. And so I'm here and I'm just tickled pink.
You are an expert in sales. I've seen it, witnessed it. Tell me how it came about. How'd you get started? Go as far back as you want, but I'm really intrigued about how somebody lands and realizes that sales is their thing.
Well, considering most businesses hate sales, it is kind of a special story of how does one find themselves loving sales? Well, mine happens to start at 9 years old, believe it or not. And I remember back in the day, Levi Strauss, I'm probably dating myself there a little bit, but back in the day when I was 9 years old, there was this beautiful outfit in Levi Strauss. I had to have it. And being a daughter of a single mom, she couldn't afford it. So I said, Mom, I got to have it. She says, you're going to have to earn some money. So I went home and I brainstormed and I thought, how can I scheme up some money? And I decided to go door to door and walk dogs. And I thought, that's easy. I can do that. And I learned probably two of my biggest lessons in that era at 9 years old. Number one, qualify your lead. Have some idea that they actually have a dog to walk before you knock on the door.
There's no evidence of dogs.
That's right. And then number two, just keep knocking. Go door to door. I canvassed probably a 4-block area. And that summer, I think my mom said like $2,000, which, back in the day.
9 years old, $2,000.
And I'm old. So considering how long ago that was a lot of money. And I learned really quickly that if you can sell, if you can connect with people, if you can help them make a buying decision, you can write your own paychecks. And that is the passion that I try to pass along to businesses today. So I pursued an advertising degree in college. First semester, my senior year, I had to change majors, and it was pretty devastating. But it was the best thing. Sometimes devastation brings great blessings. So I ended up over in the marketing college, the business college, and took a marketing class that introduced me to sales for the first time. I had to sell fake tan lotion to my instructor, and I had to go through discovery, and I had to go through all the phases. And I loved the process. I loved the connection. And I was sold from there, and really didn't mean to get into sales after that. But I remember my first job was at just while I was still in college, at a photography studio. And I remember the guy that owned the studio sitting across the couch from me, and he says, well, he hired me for marketing. I'm there. And he says, we're just not closing as many as we should. We really should be having more. We need more leads. And I said, no, I think we just need to close more that are coming in the door. He said, well, nobody can outsell me. My name is on the sign. And I said, well, why don't you just give me a shot? I outsold him 3-1 within 3 months. Yes. And there's a little something to be said about a woman selling brides versus a man selling brides. But I really, at the end of the day, it was about connection, finding out what the brides wanted, finding out how we could make that come true, and then helping them make a buying decision. And it really, if we look at sales, that is as easy as it is. And I think if we remove a lot of the pressure from having to be a certain way or say a certain thing, I think we can have a lot more fun in the process and be way more effective.
Okay, wait, can we go back real quick? At 9 years old, you thought to yourself, I think I need to qualify my leads.
Oh, no. This is a lesson that came from that. I think back about how many doors I knocked on and they said, I don't even have a dog, and slammed the door in my face.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh man, I probably should have looked for one. Of course, at that point, I needed money. I wanted that outfit. And by the way, I did get the outfit.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, how'd that work out?
I was the coolest kid in town.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a lesson that came a little later when you realize, wow, if I would have just done or taken one more step, I probably would have been a little closer to a sale.
Yeah, and you could have become more efficient and wasted less time, and so that look back and learning that qualifying leads is important, and you probably didn't do that for a while, but that's the key is looking back and see, because there, like you mentioned, there's several steps in a sale. If you just improve a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, you don't have to go crazy, but that compounding effect is unbelievable. So how often do you look back to see what's working, what's not working?
Believe it or not, I listen to every one of my sales calls, so daily. So if I'm on a sales call, if I'm having a conversation, or I went to coffee with someone and I think about that conversation, I go back and I debrief it. Like, what did I miss? Especially when it doesn't lead to the sale that I wanted, or they haven't made the decision to buy or sign up with me, or whatever whatever I'm selling, they didn't move forward. And that's always a very confounding, why didn't they say yes? Why did they say no? And I've got to get to the bottom of that. And I got to understand whether it's my fault, meaning I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't really understand the target that I was going after. What was it that we missed the boat on?
Yeah.
Or was it a fear that I didn't hold them accountable to? Was it something that they shared in the conversation I missed and didn't go deep enough on to help them see the better way of going about things? So, anytime someone's buying something, they're making a decision to make a change. And that is the hardest sale to make, is to make a change. Whether you're selling into a corporate, you're selling service businesses and getting a new roof, and there's always that fear of risk. There's always that fear of making the wrong decision. We got to make them safe. We got to let them know that they're in good hands and we're going to take good care of them.
Yeah.
And we've got to show them how we're going to do that. Oftentimes asking good questions is enough. Have you looked at other vendors? Have you looked at other options? What are those? Why are you considering those options? There's so many questions we can answer or ask. And, I think a lot of my clients come to me asking for a script, or asking for, what's the list of questions I should ask? There's probably 3 or 4 you should start with, and let the rest of the conversation flow based on what your prospect is telling you, and really dive deep into what it is that they're getting at. What are they after? What's stopping them from getting it from someone else or on their own? And can you help them get over that fear?
Yeah.
And it is a conversation. And oftentimes we don't treat it as such. We treat it as we're almost in the transaction before the transactions even happened.
Right.
And that cuts us off. And that's really, really important, to just want to have good connections and connect buyers to good solutions, which, obviously you do as a business owner.
You are a true professional. If you're going to sit there and go back and listen and critique each call you make, then you're taking this more seriously than most. What is the one thing is that you've just worked on the most? Is it asking probing questions, asking open-ended questions, finding your own rhythm to a conversation? What is it? Because that's a lot of work, going back and listening to every call.
It is. And to be fair, I probably haven't listened to every single call.
No,
but I'll go through the high points. You ask a really good question, because we could say it's the questions I'm asking. It's the number of questions. It's, have I built good rapport? Have I earned their trust? All of these things that go into the sales process. At the end of the day, the number one thing, every business owner, what I have had to get rid of, what you've had to get rid of to be effective, is the assumptions. You cannot know before you go into this conversation. You cannot know anything. You can hypothesize, you can guess, it's really easy when you have served the same kind of client for a long time to know them better than they know themselves.
Yeah, sure.
And very few clients actually know their real problems. They know symptoms, they know outcomes of symptoms, but they don't know the core problem. That's why we're specialists in whatever it is that we're doing. If we go into that conversation assuming that we know all the answers, we have already shortcutted that sale right out of the gate before we've even started. So really the curiosity, I have a new book that I'm working on called the cat's just fine because curiosity is not going to kill you, and it's definitely not going to kill your client. The cat's just fine.
Oh, you'll be back on when you launch that one.
This is about curiosity and leaving all of the assumptions aside and treating this almost like a science experiment where I think that they're suffering from this. Let me ask the questions to validate it. So we can't know before we ask the questions. Not assuming,
but something they told me is making me think that. So I'm going to drill a little bit deeper there.
You got it. You got it. And it's kind of corroborating the story. So I think it's this, and I'll ask them, and I'll get an answer. And this is the other area. This is still a part of the assumption. I hear one answer that kind of sounds like what I need to know, and I stop. And then I go on to the next thing.
Yep.
You've got to ask another couple questions just to make sure that what you heard was true. And the other thing is making sure that your prospect is telling you things you understand. People can use profitable, successful. They can use, we want to be productive. We want to, what is productivity to you, Mr. or Mrs. Prospects?
Correct. I need to know from you, what does that mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
This is expensive. What's expensive? Compared to what? Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you come to that number? What's behind that? What if you don't make that number? What if you do make that number? These are all things to dive into that one small little thing that they said. So taking things at face value feeds assumptions. And there's the number one thing that I can tell people when they're in a conversation, a sales conversation, leave all of that at the door. Be willing to go a little deeper and ask another question and another. And once you have you're certain and they're certain, because oftentimes in this line of questioning, when you say, well, what does success mean? They stop and hesitate and go, you know what? That's a good question.
That's right.
Now, you're winning when you get
correct.
when a prospect says to you, you know what? That's a good question. I've never thought about it that way. That, you have now permeated that first layer of social politeness.
Yeah.
They've been asked these questions a million times by a million different people. Okay, maybe not a million, but they've been a lot of people, and they know the rote answer. They know what to give you.
Yeah, correct.
Very few people go beyond that, and they keep moving forward, and that's where they miss the gold.
Yeah. So, I believe that business is about solving problems that people have or companies have that they're willing to pay you to help them solve, right? How hard is it to get to somebody who you either do outreach to and you say, look, we have a solution to this, and they raise their hand. How hard is it to get them to get down to their real problem? And maybe they don't know to the degree that the problem is affecting them, right? How hard does it take to get them down there?
That's a hard answer to come up with, because it's give you bad news, listeners, but it's hard. There is nothing easy about helping another human being make a decision that they're not aware of that they need to make, or they're not sure if it's the right one. So you have to be diligent, and you have to think about it from their perspective and really understand where they're standing. Where are they on the decision process? Are they just considering options? They've already diagnosed what they think they have, and at the end of the day, they just need a solution. So it's what if I buy this? What if I don't? What are the consequences? What if I do? And what's the upside? So our job really is to help them first of all, understand how expensive the problem is to them. So when you said, getting them to buy from you has everything to do with, does this have the value that you need to move the needle in the direction that you want to move it? So as a salesperson, or as someone who is helping make someone else make a buying decision, you really have to say, this is what it's worth to you. Now that comes in 3 different ways. What are you going to save? What are you going to make? And what risk are you going to avoid by either fixing it and getting on board with me, or not fixing it and facing the risk? Yeah. So how hard is it? It's as hard as you make it. I don't find it very hard, because I go in with this care and concern for my clients and their outcomes. And because I've done this for so long, I already know the roadmap. I have to bring them along with me, though. I can't just run out ahead and go, come on, this is the way to go. I have to say, hey, where are you now? Okay, what if we took this step? And do you know this? And are you aware of that? And have you thought about this? And let's look at it at a different perspective. What would happen if this happened? So it's just really helping them formulate the decision in the process so they feel safe and know that you have their best interest at heart.
Rainbow vacuum salespeople, they have the same pitch for every family. But it apparently works a lot of the time. Is that because they're offering the same problem that every family has? Or should it be different per family? Like, because you're saying you care, you get to know them, tell them the problem, show them what they're losing, all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that you brought up rainbow vacuums because I bought one.
Did you?
I really did.
My mother bought two.
I will tell you that I made him work. I made him work because I wasn't going to buy. When he got to my door, I was not going to buy. I was not going to buy from a door-to-door vacuum salesperson. But what he did in the course, so you say that's the same pitch. It's the same product, but it's very seldom the exact same pitch because every family is going to have a different priority. So as a mom, a busy mom, or a stay-at-home mom, or a busy work wife, there are different priorities, and this vacuum does different things. I mean, I bought the one with the air purifier thing and all of that. So, but he had to really sell me on this thing is expensive. Like, why would I buy? I don't even remember how much it was. It was way too much money. But why would I buy this vacuum when I have one in the closet that does the vacuuming that I need it to do? Oh, and he had to meet me. He asked me a ton of questions. He asked me what was important to me. So the pitch does change if it's done properly. It changes based on the conversation that's happening. The buyer has different priorities. This vacuum salesperson has to figure out what those priorities are. And of the priorities, which is the tippy top priority, and what do they stand to gain? Did he build a vision for me? And he did. Around the air purification is what ended up selling me, go figure. But because I didn't even know. He brought new information to that conversation because what I said a moment ago is, why would I buy a vacuum cleaner that I have in the closet? Well, because it's not just a vacuum cleaner. It's an air purifier. Yeah. Do you have asthma? Yeah. Oh, done. Right? Allergies and asthma. We had pets. We had dander in the air. And suddenly I'm like, you mean that it'll get rid of all of that too and vacuum my floors? I was sold. But if he had not asked me about my health conditions or if there was anything else that worked or was bothering me, I wouldn't have bought that stupid vacuum.
Rainbow hires pretty good people who are bulldogs. They won't give up. They obviously have a good framework that they teach and they train to, and they continually train. Why do some companies not get sales right? And you may say it's hard, right? But what's the deal?
I was going to say, pick your hard too, by the way. I mean, hard is hard. Hard is also not getting any sales and not doing anything and worrying about the revenue every single month. So pick your hard. Which one do you want? Would you like to be proactive and at least be working in the right direction and have it a little bit hard? Or would you like to be broke and have no revenue coming through the door because you're afraid of doing the hard that we just talked about? So, but I will tell you, why do they get sales wrong? They don't do the deep dive. Yeah. They don't customize the pitch to the person who's in front of them at any given point. They make assumptions. I've installed 1 million roofs. I've fixed 1 million toilets. I know what's wrong. That client doesn't know what's wrong. And until you bring them along with you, they think you're doing one over on them. They think that you're trying to get them for their money, because there are a lot of bad salespeople out there. Let's face it. There are some charlatans that will tell you anything you want to hear to get you to open your wallet and give them your money. Yeah. So, but a customer is very smart today. They've already done their research online. They've already looked at options. You are one in many they're probably talking to. So you've got to stand out. And believe it or not, this is where it gets simple, right? While sales is hard, the simple part of sales is just simply connecting on something that's important to the person in front of you.
100%.
When you find that, you have it. So this is the part that people leave out. They get trained on the pitch. They know the features and benefits. I mean, software platforms that we pay subscriptions to every month are the same thing. Here's the CRM, and here's all the buttons and whistles, and here's how you can punch this, and this is what it does, without ever asking the client, what's going on in your world that any of this even matters?
Yeah, because so many get stuck in features and benefits. Features and benefits, and not, this is the solution to the problem you said you have. Right. So what's the hardest thing to train when you're training sales folks?
The hardest thing to train is most definitely overcoming objections. It's the end game that we think we asked. I mean, even those who have gone through the rigor, They've asked all the good questions. They got some gold out of this conversation. They're feeling really confident. They're feeling like this might be the opportunity that they can start to talk about their features and apply them to the things that they got.
What's the difference between that and somebody saying no and you pestering them and then being like, I said no, stop?
As you get to the end of that conversation, right? You're feeling whether or not you have the permission and the trust to say, here's what I want to do. You make that pitch and they say, no, not going to do it. Tell me more about that. So no is not forever. No is not actually the truth, believe it or not. No is a fear, and that fear is what we have to get over. We have to figure out what fueled the no. Now, in that moment, you can't do a lot about what did I do at this moment. Right now, you've got to focus all of your energy on what are they thinking? What did they hear from me? What are they not understanding? I tell my clients, when you hear no, your brain has got to be discombobulated in that moment. Because if you did everything you know to do and you did it well, you ask the questions, you're getting that vibe that they're really leaning in and really interested, and suddenly they say no, you've got to ask yourself, what in the heck just happened? Did we just move to a different alternate universe? Like what just happened?
Where are the candid cameras?
Who are you? What did you do with the guy I just had here 5 minutes ago? So you've got it in your own mind, process pretty quickly to go, okay, wait a minute. What could they be thinking right now? Well, what did I say at the very beginning? Don't assume anything. Just ask.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying no. When we talked a few minutes ago, you had told me this and this and this, and you had agreed that it was this. Tell me what's going through your mind right now. Why no? What would have made you say yes? Like really get underneath of that. Oftentimes, almost always, it's going to be some sort of fear. And that fear could be as you as a vendor. It could be, I don't think I have the money. I don't know how I'm going to afford this. You're too expensive. All of these things. The hardest thing to teach is that moment of pause after you hear no, to stop, let a breath, let a beat go by, and ask why. Why is that your answer? Talk to me more about that. What are we dealing with? And sometimes it's no, not now. Why not now? We talked about all these consequences, all of this stuff that's going on for you. Why would you put off a solution? Just help me understand. Now, we don't want to berate them. We don't want to make them feel guilty. We don't want to shame them. That has gone on in sales as well, unfortunately. That's not our goal, but our goal is to understand. It was like you were on board with me 4 minutes ago, and now you're not. If that client was not on board with you 4 minutes ago, you have no business pitching. And so you probably just blew the sale. You didn't have them yet. And so there is an art and a science to selling, that at least the sales conversation itself, to really be out of your body and on the table if you have to be, to just read the room, understand where you are in that sales conversation and when it's appropriate to move forward to the next phase. And really, quite honestly, continue to earn their trust all the way through the conversation. And only when you feel that you have that full trust can you pitch the features and maybe even the benefits.
Yeah, correct.
So the hardest part is most definitely taking a beat after an objection, not getting self-conscious, not panicking, not going, oh my gosh, because we're all tied to these sales. Let's face it, especially when our business depends on them, we're very emotionally attached to the outcomes. We have to stop. We have to detach. Let the conversation live in the space between you. And when it comes time and they're ready to buy or not buy, then we can make some decisions about how we feel about it. But taking a very objective approach to a sales conversation is very, very powerful.
Yeah. I work with so many clients, service-based businesses, right, that they love their service or they love their product. And that's what they focus on. And because they offer a really good service, often they don't have to focus on sales. And some of my clients never market, you know what I mean? And we'll get back to the differences between marketing and sales. But do you come across people that like they've just been succeeding in spite of themselves, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And if they can just turn on the power
1%
with either marketing or sales, but specifically sales for you, what's it like going into a company like that? And what do you have to do to get them to see, you know what, you got your service down. Let's turn up the heat, right? Is it hard to convince the owners to do that?
It is sometimes because they're so comfortable.
Yeah.
We love our comfort zones. And, if it's working, why break it? Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. but a 1% adjustment on any part of the sales process or sales conversation can reap exponential benefits.
No doubt about it.
Either more revenue or better commissions for the salesperson or better customers. Let's not forget that we're not just out there to take any customer. We could and can and should be looking for the right customers.
Oh, 100%.
Because we got into business to enjoy our business. And I think a lot of business owners get into the grind of things and they just keep moving forward and they don't stop to think, wow, if I had a better quality client, I can have more life enjoyment, right? This business is to fuel the life, not the other way around. And if we could just stop for a minute and look at the quality of client. Now, a quality of client may come at a higher ticket price and they might be harder to find. They might be more unique in their needs and what it is they're looking to get. But a 1% adjustment allows you the luxury of working with those types of customers.
Yeah.
So how do we adjust qualification? How do we adjust the conversation? How do we disqualify? This is something that I talk a lot about as well. Sometimes you're in front of a prospect and we're so hungry for the kill. We're so hungry for that sale. Like, I just want to win. Like somehow if I get them to buy, I win. Well, you better be careful because on the backside, oftentimes they're not a great client and you didn't win anything. You ended up on the losing end of that deal. So you really have to be aware of not being after the kill, being after the service and making sure that that client is going to appreciate and value that service. And sometimes you can do that before you've even decided to do business. Yeah. There are sales that I've walked away from and said, I'm just probably not your person. I had a tech SaaS company several years ago that's a $60,000 contract I walked away from because they wouldn't hire me. They wanted me for training. They didn't want me for coaching. And I said, I can't do training without coaching. Yeah. I have to help you implement the things I've taught over time. You have to implement them and have habit and repetition and consistency. And before that's in place, this training is worthless. You're going to pay me this $60,000 and come back to me in 6 months and tell me it didn't work. I'm not putting my name on the line for something like that. And we went back and forth. I have a really good rapport with the VP that I was talking to, so I could really kind of deal it straight to him. And he's like, "No, we're just not going to do it." I said, "Well, I'm not going to do it. And here's 3 of my colleagues you can call." And he hired a trainer. And what do you know? A year later, he did call and he says, "You were right." And I said, "Well, let's do business." Well, and they were making some major company changes and I think they were going to get bought out within about a year. So he was like, "No, we're not going to be able to do it." But here we are. So you have to really look at, am I going to get to do my best work? Am I going to get to sell the kind of products that I know are the right product for this client? Or because I'm going to cave into their fears, are they going to force me to do a subpar job because I just want the sale?
Yeah, sure.
And this is the thing. I don't think a lot of people think about sales quite this molecularly. I think this is hopefully
which is part of the problem.
Exactly. And I think for most of your listeners, it's, I just need dollars in the door. I just need dollars in the bank account. Let's go get some people and let's go. And a lot of times, I think the one thing that everyone leaves out is the discovery, especially in the service-based business and then in the trades. So when you have a plumber, now granted, there's not a lot of deep-seated, heart-wrenching questions around a broken toilet. Let's be honest. Sure. I have a toilet that's broken and I need you to fix it. So what am I going to tell you, ask you, assure you of that I'm not just the plumber that's going to leave you high and dry or take you for a lot of money. We're back to that safety and that fear-based sale. So
it's all about serving the customer.
Absolutely. Serving and solving. Yeah.
Have you ever sold a product you didn't believe in? Because I do see that's part of the challenge with the companies the companies that are just out for the buck. They're hiring folks that are willing to say or do whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
But have you ever done that? And what'd you do to correct it if you did?
It was an MLM, and I'll leave the name out just for sake of privacy.
What's MLM?
Multi-level marketing. Yeah, so it was a multi-level.
Already sounds like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, multi-level marketing. Several, actually. I tried multi-level marketing several times. Because I'm good at sales, I thought, this is a shoo-in. I'll just sell the heck out of this.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that I didn't believe in the product. I didn't believe that it had enough benefit for me to get really passionate about. It whether it was cosmetics or it was a diet product or it was, whatever. It just, for me, the discovery was different. It wasn't as deep and meaningful, and it didn't have as big of an impact. And it was a commoditized product. So for me, I couldn't get passionate about it. I was never successful at multi-level marketing.
And it's funny.
It is. And even just recruiting salespeople, knowing that most folks who are going into multi-level marketing are not salespeople, and they really don't want to be.
Yeah, sure.
Personally, the multi-level marketing dynamic doesn't work for me. So,
do you think that's basically because you or people you recruit don't necessarily have the passion? Maybe it works for the people who are passionate about their products?
It's funny because I am passionate about the product. I'm not passionate about the solution. I think you can get those solutions in a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't convinced that this was the solution.
Not any better than a good competitor.
Exactly.
Or not
exactly.
enough better. Yeah.
And, when I talk about my coaching, or I talk about Company Growth Academy, or I talk about any of the services that my clients have, these are transformational products and services.
Yeah.
And I get excited about that.
So that's what drives you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
And it has to do that to any salesperson who is working hard to, offer services that they sell.
A roofer has to know that his shingles and his team is the best doggone team in town.
Yeah.
And they're going to get on that roof and they're going to do it faster and better and have better results for their client than anybody else. They've got to be certain about that.
Yeah.
The plumber has got to be convinced that he can come in and fix these drainage problems and not leave a mess and do right by the customer. And when he leaves, that customer is going to love him and call him every time they have a problem. All of these companies, especially accounting, I'm going to save my clients the most amount of money. I'm going to be creative in how I work with their P&L and turn in their taxes. And I'm going to do these things because I care about my client.
Yep.
If you are not certain that you are the best in town, you're probably not.
I look at every department in a business. So we talk about marketing and then sales and operations and then the administration. They all have to align. Mm-hmm. But right there after marketing is sales. Have you ever been in a situation where companies were, they were just selling and operations couldn't fulfill what the sales were doing? Or, we had a hard time selling what we deliver? And how do you get over that? Do you have to get in and work in the team with the company and say, hey, we have to align so we're selling what you can deliver, and not getting upset with the sales department?
This is such a great question because my business, Sell Mark 360, is about selling and marketing 360 degrees in the business. So I have long believed that marketing and sales do not belong in separate funnels, but they do come in a certain order.
Right.
So your marketing is going to be your education. It's going to be your syndication. It's going to be your broadcast to the world. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. And here's who we do it for. Your marketing builds the foundation on which sales can get a lot easier. When there's not when there's not a marketing function in place or it's not adequate, sales gets hard. We talked a little bit about how hard it is. It gets harder.
Yeah.
If the customers are not educated, if they don't know the differentiations before they go in, especially in today's market, clients are doing research long before they ever even know there's a problem.
Yeah.
They're saying, if this ever happens, or my friend, this happened, I'm going to look for a backup. And then when they sense that there's a problem, they're starting to is it this? Is it, am I going to buy or am I not going to buy? Am I going to worry about this or not? And so they're in the marketplace trying to figure that out. If you are right time, right message with your marketing, you've already hooked them to the first step. It's demand gen. You're bringing them in and saying, yeah, I might be a solution for you. Now, a lot of prospects these days can buy themselves. They don't need a sales rep, which also makes it hard for the sales rep. So you have to have some differentiation about what you do, some proprietary language in that marketing that leads the client or the prospect, hopefully the prospect, to believe that this one might be a little bit different. I might have to call and ask some questions. What is this thing they're talking about? What is this package that they're offering that I've never seen before? Then comes sales, just like you said. Marketing, they've come in, there's some sort of interest, there's some sort of hey, I think I need you, or I've got this problem, come see it. Now sales can build off of what was articulated to them in their marketing. Mm-hmm. And now these are the reasons they came. And now we can ask, why were those things interesting? What was your priority? Why is this important? Have you done this before? What's going on? Now, I don't know that I've ever been in an organization where they've sold so much they can't deliver. I think it's the other way around.
Or they've overpromised.
Well, that's that marketing channel, right? We're gonna do all of this, and then somewhere the salesperson sells it and the delivery doesn't deliver.
Yeah.
And this is where the 360 comes in my world. Customer service is sales. Delivery, servicemen on the field, boots in the street, is sales. At every juncture that a prospect or a client meets your company, you are selling to them.
I cannot agree more.
Not the original sale,
Yep.
but it is every future sale. It is the referral that they're going to give their friends and family. It's the feeling that they get from being engaged with you. And that is either going to elicit them to be your best advocate or your worst nightmare.
Getting referrals is a sales game too. Not a sales game, but it's part of the program.
Oh yeah, it's influence. How can I influence you to believe in me so much that you're going to tell the people that trust you the most?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? And I think a lot of businesses are in that referral game first because it's more comfortable.
Yeah.
Because that prospect comes already half sold. They've already
either in their mind or something they read. And if we're doing a good enough job of actually filtering out people, then we're not gonna upset the sales, department.
Right.
Like I say, they're aligned. They have to be aligned, and it's got to be a cohesive deal. But as when you're in that sales role, do you ever have to go to the marketing department and say, "Hey, look, this is what we're finding with the leads that are coming in. Can we say this differently, or can we filter these folks out?" Or how big a job is that?
The sales and the marketing team have to talk. I'm convinced they need to stand up once a month, if not once every 2 weeks.
For sure. Yeah.
Where marketing is saying, here's what we know. And sales is like, well, that doesn't work anymore. We haven't heard that objection for a while, but we are hearing this. What can we say in the marketing to kind of temper some of that on the back end? These two departments have to talk. Also, when service people arrive on site to do whatever they got to do, or a consultant ends up in the company, or a coach ends up on the call, they have to know, what is that client? How are they feeling along with the delivery process?
Absolutely.
Has something come up that they weren't expecting that caused a little, ooh, wait a minute, what's this all about? How can we temper some of that? It is absolutely a 360 or a linear kind of a relationship that we have to make sure we know what the right hand is doing with the left hand. And it is so, so key because it is a holistic service. It doesn't just happen in one department. I think marketing is a beautiful thing. I have always oriented myself. I've owned 2 full service marketing agencies. So the marketing has always been my bailiwick as well. It's what I went to college for. It's what I got my degree in, and sales came in part and parcel with that. But the bottom line is that marketing is to convert though.
Oh, heck yeah. There's lead generation.
That's right. And there's new companies that need branding, meaning,
sure.
I need to tell you what we're all about. I need to educate you. We need to do content that tells you why this is important. If you've never thought about it this way, this is what you should be thinking. There's that version of it. But marketing has to be a part of the sales process to be truly effective.
Would you say marketing and sales, this is a weird question. I just popped in. Are they cousins or are they brother and sister?
Brother and sister.
That's what I would.
Absolutely. They have the same DNA.
Yeah.
They have the same, similar DNA.
Yeah.
Cousins is too far apart. I would say that their sales and marketing are absolutely brother and sister, maybe even brother and brother. Wouldn't go so far as they're saying they're twins though, because they serve
correct.
They serve different functions, and
twins serve different functions. Every twin that just heard you say that is like, I'm different than my twin.
Oh heck yeah!
But they look the same.
Yeah, and the same DNA.
Yeah.
That's where the DNA.
So and the bottom line is, if they look the same, it's assumed that they're the same, and they're not.
They're not.
A lot of times, it's not about the truth; it's about the perception. In sales and marketing, we have to sell to perceptions. We have to sell to, what does this prospect or this customer base perceive about me? And in service-based businesses, they perceive service-based businesses, meaning those, especially the trades, especially the car mechanics and the roofers out there. Every customer comes in with their buyer defense so high, and it's a double layer brick wall, because you're going to get one over on me. No one wants to be duped. So they're very, very protective. This is where we have to break down all those walls and make sure the marketing starts with the discovery essence before they've even walked into the service shop.
Yep.
You have to make sure that they know you have their best interest at heart, and then have proof to show it.
Yeah. You said the buyer wall, right?
Oh, yeah.
I teach the buyer temperature. And the example I always use is like, if you see a new car that's come out and you go onto a dealership, all of a sudden you get swarmed by salespeople, right? And they often talk benefit, feature, and they try to move you from where you are to closing the deal while you're on the lot, right? So if you go in just with some curiosity and you're at a 2 out of 10, they really they want to move you from a 2 to a 10, But what I find is we have to move them from a 2 to a 3.
That's right.
Or a 2 to a 4. And then we, if they come back or we continue to call them and reach out to them, maybe move them to a 5 or 6. At some point, they'll get to a 9 or a 10.
Right.
Right. And then those folks don't have buyer's remorse.
Right.
It's the people that go in at a 2 or 3 and end up getting convinced, and buying that day, that 2 or 3 days later, they're really regretting the purchase.
So I think this is where assumptions also play a big part. Because someone walked on the lot doesn't mean they're ready to buy.
Absolutely.
And we oftentimes, if they're here, they must be looking. And so that temperature is really, really key. I love the temperature idea because how hot are they? Are they at a 2 or a 3? And what's the next logical step for them? You can't jump from 2 to 10. Very rarely does that work well. It can work short term, and then they have an impression going from there. So again, it goes back to that discovery. What brought you in today? Why are you here? And maybe even asking them, on a scale of 1 to 5, how aggressive are you for looking for a car today? I was just in an accident last week and we got to have something by tomorrow so I can get to work. That's a different customer than,
totally
we're
different.
just looking. So you have got to know who is in front of you and what are they dealing with and how urgent is this? And you asked a little bit ago about what the hardest thing. Objections absolutely is the first. The second is understanding the urgency and asking, is this a now decision? Or is this a decision you want to make sometime in the next 6 months? Or are you looking maybe over the next year? What's your timeline? When are you looking to get this fixed? Whatever it is, and that comes in many shapes and sizes. So, kind of gauging the temperature or gauging the buying stage that your person is in will make your job easier. You won't work nearly as hard if you know that they're nowhere near a decision.
Yeah.
You're not going to push, and if you don't push. Everybody listening, please listen to this. If you don't push, you will earn a customer. It is not now, but you will earn them later. You've got to let them buy at the pace they need to buy. And if they do not know how urgent it is, help them see it, help them articulate it, and you might sway them to understand it's a little more urgent than they thought it was, and they might buy. You're not going to push a sale on someone who doesn't want to buy right now or who does not see the value. So these are all things you really have to be in tune with who's in front of you at any given time. If you've gone in with assumptions and you have an agenda and your goal is to sell that day, almost always you're not going to sell. And if you do, you're going to sell with hard feelings.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you, there's a common thread in each one, whether it's overcoming objections or, discovering where they are, it's questions.
That's right.
At every phase, the only way to get the answers that you can present to help that person is by asking questions. Do you find it easier to ask like real direct probing questions or open questions and letting them talk?
Both. It's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to ask a direct question because you have to assert your expertise. What you're hearing so far is not quite well informed, or they have a misunderstanding that you are hearing.
Yeah.
That needs to be corrected. It's not rude to bring new information and help them see it differently because you are the expert. There's been times where I've been on a call with a client or a prospect and say, I understand what you're saying. Can I give you a different perspective?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'll tell you, here's been my experience. I'm never going to say you're wrong. You've got that wrong. You're full of hot air. I'm going to say, this has been my experience. When I worked with the client, very similar to what you're describing now, it was this, this, and this. And what we found was it's a feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I know what's going on in your head. This is how others have felt too. I had clients that did X, Y, and Z, and this is what we found. This is the outcome that happened when they did or did not do X, Y, and Z. So that feel, felt, found lets people feel validated. It lets them know that you know them, you understand them, and that there's probably a different outcome or maybe the same outcome, depending on how you're using that tactic. But I understand. I get it. Man, it's not your fault that you've got this information. It's everywhere. In fact, every client I talk to has this issue. Here's what happens, and here's what has happened in the past, and here's how we fix it. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, let me ask you another question. And then you're into it again.
Yeah, correct.
And so these questions, and so sometimes they're, we try to keep them as open as possible. When I'm training, I'm very, very sticky on open versus closed questions. But let's face it, there are times in real sales conversations that a closed question is actually more poignant because you need to get to the fact quickly.
Yeah.
And it is either this or it is that. Which one for you? And again, even that's an open-ended question that I just asked. But
exactly.
But we really want to avoid the yes, no, because I can ask you a question. Is that a blue sweater that you have on today? Yes.
Then
I got zero
air.
information from you. I got zero context from you. So why did you pick a blue sweater today? Because da da da.
Yeah, correct.
But sometimes I can say, that blue sweater, do you think that looks good?
Yes, I do.
It actually does, Jeff. So I think you have to use a good mix of those very poignant, very directed questions, but mostly open. And I tell my clients, let your 2-year-old curiosity bring you through these conversations. And I have often said the answer is in the question.
Yeah.
So when you ask a question, the answer that you're seeking for is right there. The other thing I want to bring, a different perspective that I don't hear other sales trainers and sales coaches talking about, is it is actually more than just the question. You have to prepare for these calls. Now, oftentimes, if these are consultative selling and you're selling into corporate or you're selling an intellectual property like coaching or consulting, it's a little different discovery, a little deeper. If you're selling a product-based business, you don't have quite the deep introspection as you do with some of the other sales. It's a little shorter in the sales process, the conversation itself. However, when you go into that conversation, you have to know what you need from that conversation to be compelling. So you have to do a little study. It's almost like a prosecuting attorney. That prosecuting attorney has, or a defensive attorney, whichever role you want to play, has a witness on the stand. And there are 12 people in a jury listening to every word that comes out of that witness's mouth. As an attorney, you have to figure out, what do I have to ask to get the answer that I want out of that prospect so the jury can hear the deal. So they can hear what I want the jury to hear. What do I want to hear? I want to hear that you need me, it's urgent, you don't care how much it costs, and you're ready to move forward. Those are the 4 things I need from you as a salesperson. So how do I get you to that? What do I need to ask, and what questions and how do I need to formulate them to get you to give me what I need to make a compelling case to do business with you?
Yeah.
Oftentimes we don't think enough about what we need to ask. We're not actually sure what we're after. I'm after a yes, but there's a lot that happens between now and yes. So how do I bring them along? We've been talking about bring them along in the process, meet them where they are. All of that unfolds as you ask questions. And it's just really, really important that any given phase of the conversation, you need to know what you need from that phase.
Yeah, correct.
What do I need now? I need them to know that it's okay to move on up to talk about expense or ROI or the money conversation. Oh, the money conversation. We could talk another hour on that alone. Salespeople being able to quantify their solution in terms of money and value
for
and
sure.
investment versus outcome value.
Right.
Is this worth it for you to invest in? Is it worth it for you to fix this problem? If you don't know the expense of the problem, let's talk about that. Let's do some napkin math here and figure it out. That's a really hard part of the conversation for most non-traditional salespeople.
That's exactly right. And that's one of those fears that we have. Speaking of fears, as you work with salespeople and you're trying to get them to overcome certain fears or certain obstacles that they deal with, don't you feel like if they truly believe in the product or the service they're providing, that they have an obligation to go out and talk about it and offer it?
100%.
But why don't they see it?
Many of us as humans are afraid of what other people think. And number one, when we pitch, when we're out there, we are boisterous. Somehow we're brazen and we don't want that attention. Many of us are not geared. We're not made up of the stuff to be out there shouting from the mountaintops. But I have oftentimes broken this down for my clients to say, if you had the cure to cancer, would you stop at anything to get it in the hands of the people who needed it?
That's exactly right.
And believe it or not, in most cases, your prospects, your clients do have cancer. It's cancer of their business.
Sure.
And if you have a business-to-business product that can solve really pervasive, expensive business problems, you are solving cancer. It's just a different kind of cancer.
Yep.
And could it be the death of that business? Absolutely. So why would you hold back? Why would you not get that in the hands of as many people as possible who have a real need? Now, real need is qualification. Getting it in the hands of the people is helping them understand their problem, helping them understand the kind of cancer that they have, and how terminal is it? Do you have 4 months to live or 4 years? Like, this is your job, to help them see that what you have is the cure to the thing that they are suffering from.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, it's human nature to not want to be. Some people are born for it, right? That's why we have famous
correct.
people, and we have.
But we can also develop people
Absolutely.
to get really good at it. Or when so you either love something and you're good at it, or you get good at it,
Right.
or you're really good at it and you start to love it, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
we just have to develop people.
Well, I think in that part of that development in my world from the sales perspective is to teach people that they don't have to be the used car salesperson with the yakka, yakka, yakka. You remember Fozzie Bear on the Muppets? You don't have to be that kind of person. You have to be the caring, concerned, genuine, authentic person that you are. Yeah. Or learn to be through development, so people know that you care. I tell you what, we live in a society right now that when you talk to people, there's one level of questions most of the time. Jeff, how you doing today? I'm doing fine. Great. How's the family? It's great. Awesome.
That's it.
And then we're off to do whatever.
Right.
And then I'm waiting for you to ask me the same thing, and I'm going to give you the same platitudinal questions. And then if we're lucky, one of us will say, well, tell me about your daughter, right? But we don't. Oftentimes, in fact, if for everyone listening, if you think about the last time you met somebody or were in a room, when did that person lean in and ask you more than one or two questions about whatever you were talking about? Say you were talking about your vacation or Christmas. I was having a conversation with my nephew, and he's like, "You're in sales, I can tell." And he knows I'm in sales. He was joking because I asked him what he got for Christmas, and he told me what he got for Christmas. I said, "Oh, did they fit?" A pair of shoes. He said, "Yeah, they fit good. Do you really like them? Have you gotten any compliments?" "Oh yeah, they're awesome. Tons of compliments." "Awesome. Well, why did you like that pair? What was it about that pair?" I mean, I had like 12 questions for him, and he was just like, "Seriously, Aunt? What are we doing here?" So the bottom line is, but I took an interest.
Yeah,
I was super, super curious, and I took an interest in the shoes. Now, let's face it, guys. Was I really that interested in the shoes? Probably not. But the bottom line is it meant something for my nephew.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And I wanted him to know that I was in his world and I cared. And when was the last time someone did that for you?
Yeah, what do you think is causing that? The text generation? We're being trained to just go quick, and that's it.
I think we're all overwhelmed. We have
too much going on.
We have a lot going on. And honestly, I do think it is a little bit social media, because when we're connected to so many people, we're a little emotionally worn out. If you think about the posts in your Facebook feed, and this person's got cancer, and this person just got divorced, and this person lost a child, and this person lost their car and got in a car accident, whatever, and you emotionally are processed, even though you don't know them. Even if you don't have any investment in their life whatsoever, as a human, a feeling human, we are, to a degree, feeling for that other human being in a split second. Well, we do that all day long. And granted, there's good stuff too. We're celebrating,
sure,
right? But that emotional pull, we just don't have it in us to go that deep with that many people. Yeah. And we try to spread ourselves so thin that emotional toll and that emotional overload, we just don't take enough time with the individuals. Quite honestly, here a year ago, I pruned my Facebook. I had 3,500, whatever. I use it for personal. I use it for business. And I said to myself, I can't take this in. I can't feel bad for this person I don't even know. And so I had to shorten up my network a little. I had to say, this is my network. Here's who I'm going to talk about, which, by the way, this is a part of targeting. I believe it or not, this is related to qualifying. And we were talking about qualifying earlier. There's a step before that, which is a clear delineation, a clear decision on who it is you serve. And what is it that you are trying to serve, and why is that the characteristic? Where do you find them? What are they made up of? Some people talk about avatars, what magazine do they read, and what clubs are they a part of? That's somewhat important. It gives you an indication. But you should be able to see these things on the outside before you've ever had a conversation. If you are prospecting and you're not a service-based business where people are walking into you, that's kind of a crapshoot. Whoever walks in, we've just got to do a good job figuring out what they need, getting them what they need and solving their problems. But when you are prospecting and actually proactively picking them in the marketplace, you've got to know what you're going after, because you can spend way too much time with a lot of frogs.
Yeah.
And we don't,
sure.
kissing frogs is not fun. I don't know if you've ever kissed a frog, Jeff, but it's not fun.
Twice, but let's don't talk about that.
And mine has never turned into a prince, by the way. So I think it's really, really important to know who is your people.
Yeah,
Who
sure.
is your people personally?
Mhm.
We got a little philosophical here, but who is your people business-wise as well? And I think the other side of that might even be your staffing. Who are your people?
Oh, 100%.
And I know we talk a lot about that.
Yeah. We have covered a lot of ground, and I happen to know we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is. But obviously anyone watching, listening can hear, this is why she is the senior advisor of sales for Company Growth Advisors and Company Growth Academy. So how do you come in, and what is your desire to serve our clients at Company Growth Advisors?
There is a better way, my friend. This is to your listeners, to our clients. Sales doesn't have to be as hard as it feels, and it definitely can be more meaningful than we make it. And I think at the end of the day, we have to be willing to serve and solve problems, even if we remove the word sales altogether, because I think that's it freaks people out.
Yeah.
So let's just not call it sales. What we're doing is helping people make a buying decision. I know how to help you have conversations to do that. I know how to get you back in touch with what you wanted to do to begin with, get passionate about it, build that passion around what it is that you do, and go have great conversations with amazing human beings and have fun making money. Like at the end of the day, this is meaningful, and it is also about making money, because our businesses thrive and grow on revenue. And we also, in the meantime, need to be on mission for what it is that we said we wanted to solve in the world. There's some reason we all got into business. We said, we can do it better. We worked for someone else. We worked in a cubicle. We worked in the service field, and we said, this isn't right. We can do it better. Yes, we can. And it's time to start. So we have
amazing.
And sales can be one of those opportunities to get you more of what you love to do.
As you know, we have the podcast, I Finally Get It. Talking about sales, after your few decades in, the professional sales business, what is it that you finally get?
So many things, that I don't have to be something I'm not, that I can just be who I am and care enough to want to solve their problems, and care enough that they see the urgency that I see. I think to care enough is what it is. It's to put my feet in their shoes and walk 2 miles, not 1, and figure out what it is that they're after, identify the gaps and the barriers that are going to keep them from going there, and care as much, maybe not more, because that's a little dangerous, but care as much about that journey as they do.
Thank you for coming down to Louisiana to be on the show.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. This is not the only thing we're here for. I really want to thank you. I've enjoyed it so much.
Ditto.
And again, we've just scratched the surface on your experience in the sales world.
Yeah, I can't wait to share. I can't wait to dig in. The bottom line is I care about this as much as I just talked about a moment ago. I really have a passion and a mission. I'm on mission to make sure that people have fun selling and fall in love with the results that it brings.